AITA for breaking up after she rejected my second proposal, then said yes out of panic? I am sitting on the roof of my apartment in downtown Austin with a Shiner Bock beer in my hand and my bare feet on the wooden deck I built myself 3 months ago. It is 11 at night, and the Texas heat has finally eased up a bit. That heat that hugs you like a wet blanket during the day turns into a warm breeze at this hour that smells of crepe myrtles and a summer night. From up here, I see the illuminated Capitol Dome, the roofs of the downtown buildings, a stray dog crossing the street with the confidence of someone who knows exactly where it is going. And I also know where I am going. For the first time in a long time, I know exactly where I am going. But a year ago, I knew nothing. A year ago, I was kneeling in the Texas Hill Country with a ring in my hand, listening to the two words that split me in two. Not yet. I am going to tell you everything from the beginning because you need to understand how a man who knelt twice ended up being the one who supposedly is afraid of commitment. My name is Jared Mitchell. I am 31 years old. I am a cook, not a chef of an expensive restaurant with a fancy name. I am a real cook. I have a small diner in the East Austin neighborhood, where I make smoked brisket on Sundays, Texas-style scrambled eggs during the week, and everyday breakfast tacos that people come looking for since 7 in the morning. My grandmother taught me to cook on an old cast-iron stove in a small town in central Texas when I was 9 years old. She used to say that a man who knows how to cook will never need anyone to love him out of obligation, because good food attracts people of their own free will. She was right about almost everything. In love, she was a bit wrong. Vanessa and I were together for 4 years. We met at a party neither of us wanted to go to. Our friends had practically dragged us by force. The party was at a house in the Hyde Park neighborhood, one of those with a big backyard and speakers that competed with the noise of the cicadas. I was in a corner with a plate of appetizers complaining about the heat, and she appeared next to me complaining about the same party. We spent the whole night talking about movies we liked, weird childhood memories, how much it bothered us to be in a crowded place when we both preferred tranquility. When I looked at my watch, it was almost 2 in the morning, and I had not noticed. Do you know that feeling of when you find someone and everything fits without forcing it? It was exactly that. Vanessa was a graphic designer. She worked freelance from her apartment in the Crestview neighborhood, surrounded by screens, plants, and half-finished cups of coffee. She was smart in that way that does not show off, funny without trying, and she had a way of looking at me that made me feel like I was the most interesting person in the room. No one had made me feel that before. 2 years later, I knew she was the woman I wanted to spend the rest of my life with, but I did not want to do it halfway. I did not want to kneel with my head full of debts, stressed about money, without being able to offer her a decent start. Vanessa deserved a real proposal, so I waited. I started saving money, worked more shifts, added more tables to the diner, and while I waited, we talked about the future. Marriage came up in those conversations all the time. She said she could not imagine herself with anyone else. She said she wanted to build a life together. She talked about kids, about a small house with a yard in the hill country, about a big dog and a little one. So, when I finally felt ready, it did not seem like I was going in blind. It seemed like we were on the same page. I planned everything carefully. The place was a natural swimming hole in the Texas Hill Country near Wimberley, 40 minutes from Austin. One of those open pools surrounded by hills and trees, where the water is so blue it seems unreal. Vanessa and I went there on our first date, which was not a party. We swam. We kissed underwater and we laughed because we both swallowed water at the same time. One of those silly moments that stay forever. I wanted something intimate. Just the two of us. No crowded restaurant with everyone watching. No stadium screen proposal. Just her and me in the place where everything started to get serious. The day of the proposal, the sky cooperated. It was one of those Texas afternoons where the light turns golden and the trees cast long shadows on the dirt path. We arrived at the swimming hole at sunset. Vanessa walked barefoot on the trail, laughing at a joke I told badly, with her hair down and a skirt that danced with the wind. We sat on the edge. She looked at the water, I looked at her, and at one point I simply stood up, took her by the hands, started telling her everything I felt, how she changed my life, how much I loved her, that I could not imagine my future with anyone else. I knelt, opened the little box, asked her if she wanted to marry me. She looked at me with those brown eyes I knew by heart, and the silence that came before the answer lasted what seemed like an entire lifetime. I want to marry you, she said, but not yet. I stayed there kneeling with the open box in my hand, trying to process those two words. Not yet. My brain froze trying to reassemble the sentence in another way, as if I had misheard. She said she was not ready, that she needed more time, that she was not in commitment mode. She did not explain much beyond that, just that it was not the right time for her. And I, to not turn that into a scene, smiled. I told her, it is okay, I understand. But I did not understand. I understood absolutely nothing. The rest of the afternoon we pretended everything was fine. We are incredibly good at that, right? You put on the mask, smile, make jokes, and whoever sees you from the outside does not realize that something broke inside. I went home with that weight on my chest and spent the following weeks convincing myself that it was not that serious, that she just needed time, that I had waited a year to have my life organized before proposing. Why could she not need her own time? I convinced myself that it was reasonable, but deep down the thorn remained. Every time marriage came up in conversation, I felt that sting again. A year passed, and do you know what we never did during that entire year? Talk about that day. Not even once. We developed an Olympic skill for ignoring the elephant in the room. The dates continued. The trips continued. The couple routine continued. On the outside, everything was fine. On the inside, I was increasingly restless. There were moments during that year where I thought everything was truly fine. One night in August, we were cooking together in my apartment. I was making dinner, and she was cutting the red onion with that adorable clumsiness of someone who never learned to use a knife well. And suddenly she looked at me with those brown eyes and said, "There is no one else I would rather be in a kitchen with on a Friday night." And I believed her. I believed her with all my heart. Those phrases were the ones that kept me there, the ones that convinced me that maybe the not yet meant soon, but soon never arrived. Every time a friend got engaged, every time we saw a wedding on social media, every time her mom asked her, "And when is it your turn?" she changed the subject with an agility that I began to recognize as trained. A detail I never told her. One night, about 8 months after the first rejection, I found her on the balcony of her apartment talking on the phone with her sister Leah. I was not spying on her. I was going to bring her a glass of water, but I heard a phrase that stuck in me like a rusty nail. "I just do not know. Leah, I love him very much. But how do you know when it is enough? Mom and Dad loved each other, and look how they ended up." There it was. Her parents divorced when she was 15 years old. An ugly divorce, with arguments, with lawyers, with holidays split in half. She almost never talked about it, but I knew it had scarred her. What I did not know is that that wound was dictating our future. I should have told her I listened. I probably should have suggested therapy, a deep conversation, something surely, but I did not do it because I was afraid that if I opened that door, what I would find behind it would hurt me more than the not yet. So I kept waiting like an idiot or like someone in love. Probably both things. We were both approaching 30. For years together. At some point you know, or you do not know. There is no eternal middle ground. And that was when I decided to try again, but this time different. The first proposal had been intimate, simple, just the two of us at the swimming hole. I thought that maybe she needed something more special, more memorable. Sometimes the problem is not the feeling, but the setting. I convinced myself of that. I planned more carefully. I rented the inner courtyard of a restored historic ranch near Fredericksburg in the Texas Hill Country, one of those with stone walls, wildflowers hanging from the posts, and lanterns that illuminate everything with warm light. Vanessa had always said that the Hill Country was her favorite area in Texas. She was fascinated by the architecture, the colors, the light. I involved our closest friends. I was not going to do a proposal in a public square with a cheering crowd. That was never either of our styles. But I wanted the people we cared about there, helping to set the stage. Candles forming a path to the stone fountain in the courtyard. Wildflowers because she loved the smell. Soft music in a corner playing quietly, just in the background. It looked beautiful. The friends did an incredible job. The plan was to have dinner at a good restaurant in Fredericksburg, just her and me, and then, casually, pass by the ranch where everything would be set up. The dinner was perfect. She was lively, in a good mood. We laughed, drank local drinks, talked like in the old days. It seemed we were completely aligned. Inside, I was dying of nerves. I could not stop thinking about the swimming hole, about the not yet, praying not to hear that again. After dinner, I suggested taking a walk around the ranch. She accepted without suspecting anything. When we arrived at the courtyard and she saw everything, the candles, the flowers, the golden light illuminating the stone walls, the music playing softly, she started to cry with emotion. And I thought, now yes, this time is different. I felt it. I knelt for the second time. I said everything I felt, that I loved her, that I wanted no one else, that I was ready to build a life by her side. I took out the ring. Not yet. The same 2 words, a year later, in another place, with another setting, with all that effort, not yet. I stayed there kneeling trying to understand if I had misheard. I had not misheard. The silence of the friends around confirmed it. I saw in their faces the same disbelief I felt. I got up, tried to keep calm, but this time I could not contain the frustration. I asked her why, what was stopping her, how. After 4 years together, she still did not know. She said the same things as a year ago, that she needed to be sure, that she was not ready, that it was a very big commitment, and she did not want to rush. I asked her directly if there was someone else, if it was someone's influence, family, friend, whatever. She shook her head. It was not anyone, just her. And there the coin really dropped. Just her. It was not timing, it was not circumstance, it was not the wrong moment. She was the one who was not certain about me. After 4 years, she still did not know if I was the right person. That hurt in a different way from everything I had felt before. I told her I could not keep waiting, that if after 4 years she still did not know, I did not know what else to do anymore. I was not going to keep kneeling to receive a no back. I saw how her expression changed when she understood that this time I was serious. The friends around stayed petrified. One of them, Zach, took a step toward us as if wanting to intervene, but his girlfriend pulled him by the arm and told him, "Keep it down, do not get involved." The music kept playing, a song that in another moment would have been romantic and now sounded like a funeral soundtrack. And then, with her eyes full of tears, Vanessa said, "Okay, yes, I will marry you. Please, do not leave." Do you know what was the worst part of the whole story? It was not the rejection. The rejection hurts, but I can try to understand it. What destroyed me was that yes, because I saw exactly the moment it passed across her face. It was not joy. It was not emotion. It was not the smile of someone who finally says what they wanted to say. It was pure fear, her eyes wide open, her breath caught, her hands grabbing my arm with the strength of someone who is falling. It was the yes of someone drowning and grabbing the first thing they find. Not because she wants it, but because she is more afraid of the water. A yes that only appeared because she realized I was really leaving. A yes that had nothing of wanting and everything of fear of losing. She did not want to marry me. She was afraid of being alone and probably afraid of ending up like her parents, divorcing after saying yes with uncertainty. But the irony is that by not saying yes with certainty, she was creating exactly the situation she wanted to avoid. I did not want a marriage like that. I did not want to be the guy she chose because he was the safest option, the safe place while she waited for something she could not define. I wanted to be the person she chose with certainty, with emotion, with real desire, not a backup plan, a destination. I did not answer. I turned around and walked out of there. The music kept playing, the candles stayed lit. The friends stood there not knowing what to do, and I walked into the darkness of a gravel path in the hill country, with the ring still in my pocket and the certainty that I had just lost something that I actually never entirely had. The following days were heavy in a way that is hard to describe. 4 years is a long time to simply throw away. I went back and forth in my head trying to know if I was doing the right thing, but every time I got close to convincing myself that maybe it was worth trying again, I went back to that scene. Her, with her eyes full of tears saying, "Okay, I will marry you," with the voice of someone who is not accepting a proposal, but negotiating a way to hold on. No, I did not want it like that. I preferred to be alone the rest of my life than to marry someone whose yes sounded exactly like a no disguised as desperation. Vanessa stayed in the guest room those first days. It was our unspoken way of handling crises. Each in their corner, letting the air clear. Normally after 2 days we would sit down and resolve it, but this time I did not want to resolve it. I did not even know what to say. I spent the rest of the week processing everything. The anger went down, and what remained in its place was not relief, it was disappointment. That feeling of when you do everything right, or at least you think you did, and it is still not enough. At the end of the week, she brought up the topic. She said we needed to talk. She was right. We could not stay in limbo. I told her everything, that I could not keep waiting for her to discover if she wanted to marry me, that if after 4 years she did not know, I had serious doubts she would ever know. She stayed quiet for a long time. Then she said, I love you. I want to be with you. I am just not ready for marriage. There it was again. The same phrase, I am not ready. I asked her calmly, why? What is stopping you? We talked about this. You said you wanted it. What changed? She sighed. I saw she struggled to find the words. I do not know. It is a very big commitment. I do not want to get into something I am not sure about. That stopped everything. I am not sure. Not about marriage, about me. After 4 years, she had no certainty about me. I asked her with all the calm I had left, are you ever going to have certainty? She looked at me, and for the first time in that whole conversation, she had no answer. She just looked at her own hands in silence, and right there I knew. I got up from the couch and told her with the firmest voice I could, I cannot keep doing this. I love you, but if you are not sure about me now, after everything we lived, I do not think you ever will be, and I am not going to stay waiting forever hoping you will change. She said she was going to marry me, that she just needed more time, but that was not what I needed. I did not want a yes with fear. I wanted a yes with desire, with emotion, without a shadow of a doubt. That marriage was not going to be that, and I knew it. That night, I packed a bag and went to my friend Nate Wilson's house. Nate is one of those friends who do not ask unnecessary questions. He welcomes you, throws a pillow at you on the couch, and appears with a beer when you need it. He lives in a small apartment in the North Loop neighborhood, with a ceiling fan that makes more noise than air and a couch on the balcony where I slept the first 3 nights because I could not lie in a bed without feeling the empty space beside me. We spent the nights playing dominoes and watching repeated Longhorns games on TV. Nate did not try to give me advice or analyze me. He just placed the tiles, poured beer, and occasionally said, your turn, bro. That was exactly what I needed, presence without pressure. But the nights were difficult. I would lie down on that couch at 11 with the noise of the Texas crickets filling the darkness, and I would start reviewing the 4 years as if they were a movie. I tried to find the exact moment where everything started to twist. Was it something I said? Something I stopped doing? Was there a sign I ignored? Nate told me I was overanalyzing. He was right. But when you invest 4 years in someone, you want to believe it meant something, that it was not wasted time. One night, around 3 in the morning, I was awake on the couch looking at the ceiling when I remembered something that made my stomach churn. 3 months before the second proposal, Vanessa and I went to her cousin's wedding in the hill country. During the ceremony, when the bride and groom said their vows, I looked at her out of the corner of my eye. She was crying. I thought they were tears of emotion, of joy. Now I wondered if they were out of something else, out of fear, of knowing her turn was approaching and not being ready to take it. Vanessa's messages started the day after I left. At first they were the expected ones. We need to talk. I miss you. Do not do this. Then they escalated. She said I was throwing away 4 years for nothing, that I was being irrational, that I was going to regret it for nothing. Those words burned me, as if the 2 rejected proposals, the year of silence, her uncertainty about me, were nothing, as if I had broken up because she did not like my sports team. I did not answer, but every vibration of the cell phone left me with that squeeze in my stomach. Nate watched me look at the screen and said, do not answer her, Jarrett. If you answer her now, in a month you are kneeling again, and in 2 years you are still waiting. He was right, I knew it. But 4 years do not disappear from memory just because you made the right decision. After a few days of silence from her end, the messages from her friends started, and they were brutal. One said I was immature, another said I was selfish. A third one wrote a very long message about how I was being unfair for not giving Vanessa more time to figure out what she wanted. Apparently 4 years were not enough. Do you know what the most ironic part is? I proposed twice, I bought 2 rings, I planned 2 different proposals, I knelt twice in front of the woman I loved. But the one who was afraid of commitment is me. The logic of those people was beyond me. And then came Natalie's. Natalie was Vanessa's best friend since high school. She sent a message to Nate, not to me, to Nate, as if to make sure it reached me through an indirect channel, which said, he was her safe bet. Now she will find someone better. Safe bet. That phrase got under my skin like a splinter. That is what I was. A backup plan while she waited for something she could not define. Vanessa never said anything like that directly, but the seed was planted. And once that thought enters, it does not leave easily. Nate, when I showed him the message, just said, "Brother, you just received the confirmation you needed." If her own friend thinks that, imagine what she thought. I do not know if Natalie was right. I will never know for sure, but the doubt was already enough. My friends at least understood. Nate, simple as always, you did good. If in 4 years she could not decide, she was never going to be able to. Zach was more direct. He said I should have left after the first proposal, that she made everything clear since the first time. I did not know what to answer because deep down he was right, but at that moment I did not want to give up easily. I wanted to believe that what we had was enough for her to overcome whatever was stopping her. Her parents' divorce, the fear of commitment, whatever it was, naive or stubborn. Both. Before getting my things, something happened that I have not told anyone until now. One afternoon, walking along South Congress Avenue aimlessly, I passed in front of the jewelry store where I bought the second ring. I stood on the sidewalk looking at the display window with the rings shining under the lights. The owner, a man with a mustache who had helped me both times, recognized me from inside. He came out and asked me. He said yes. I told him no. He stayed quiet for a moment. Then he put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Sometimes the right ring finds the wrong finger. It is not the ring's fault." I laughed for the first time in days. A real belly laugh, the kind that comes out when something hits you in a place you did not expect. I thanked him and kept walking. I went for the rest of my things when I knew she would not be there. I did it on purpose. I did not have the strength for another loaded conversation. I entered the apartment, grabbed the bags, left my key on the kitchen counter. I saw the kitchen where I taught her to make breakfast tacos on a rainy Sunday, the couch where we watched movies with our legs tangled, the window from where we watched the sunsets over Western Austin. For years, 2 proposals, an abandoned key on an empty counter. I left without drama, without a final scene. The following weeks were not easy. Even knowing I did the right thing, rebuilding a routine without someone who was part of it for 4 years is harder than it seems. I got my own apartment, the one downtown, the one on the roof, a room, a small kitchen, a bathroom, nothing special, but it was mine. I could leave dishes in the sink if I wanted, play classic rock at 2 in the morning, sit on the roof with a beer without having to explain my mood to anyone. I started focusing on myself. The diner was doing well. I introduced a new menu of smoked brisket tacos that went viral on social media when a TikToker from Los Angeles came to record. The lines grew. I hired a helper, Mrs. Helen, a 60-year-old lady who makes the best sides in Austin and who scolds me if I leave the seasoning uncovered. Life went on. I was not at 100%, but I was in motion. And at that stage, motion was already enough. 2 weeks after the breakup, a different message arrived from Vanessa. Without anger, without complaints, without pressure. Just, "I understand now. I am sorry. I hope you find someone who makes you happy." It was the last message I received from her. No call afterwards, no text. The thread between us had been cut. I kept looking at the screen for a while, not knowing what to feel. On one hand, relief, the constant back and forth was over. On the other, that strangeness of when something truly ends, not with a slammed door, but with a door closing slowly without making noise. Time kept passing. I ran into her once by chance, about 3 months later at the Austin Farmers Market. It was a Saturday morning, and I had gone to buy peppers and seasoning for the diner. I was standing in front of Mrs. Betty's stall, the lady who sells the best spices in all of Austin, when I saw her at the end of the aisle. She was with a tall, blonde guy with glasses, with a canvas backpack that screamed, "I am not from here." They were chatting in a low voice. They were laughing. She was pointing things out to him in the stalls like a tour guide. They seemed comfortable with each other in that way that is only achieved when you have already known each other for weeks or months. Do you know what I felt? It was not what I expected. My heart sank for a second. I do not deny that. But the devastating pain I imagined did not come. Jealousy did not come. A complex mixture of nostalgia and relief came. Part of me missed what we were. The nights cooking together in the small kitchen of her apartment, the Sundays where she sat on the little stool at the back of the diner reading a book while I served brisket, the swimming hole where she almost said yes, or so I thought. I missed her, but not the her of now, the her from before, the one who had not broken me yet. And another part, a big part, was simply relieved not to be the guy standing next to her in the market, waiting, wishing, begging in silence that someday she would decide I was enough. That guy probably did not know it yet, but he was in the same line where I stood for 4 years, the line that does not move forward. Nate, who was with me, looked at me as if waiting for me to explode. I shook my head. I am fine, let's go. We left. I bought peppers at another stall. Mrs. Betty saved the seasoning for me for Monday. Life went on. That night, I went up to the roof of my apartment. I sat with my Shiner Bock in my hand and watched how the Austin sky faded until it was black with little dots of stars that are barely seen in the city, but that night seemed brighter. The air smelled of rain that did not arrive. That Texas humidity that stays suspended like a promise. A food truck vendor passed by the street shouting his chant, and the sound got lost among the houses until it disappeared, and I felt something I had not felt for a long time. Not happiness exactly, something deeper, calmer, the acceptance that things went how they went, that they had been how they had been, and that it was okay. Not with bitterness, not with resentment, just with that calm of someone who finally stopped fighting against something they could not change. Vanessa had moved on. I had too. In the weeks that followed, I started putting myself out in the world more. Not desperately looking for someone new. I was not ready for that, but I stopped dodging. I went out more, talked to people, started thinking about what I wanted out of life, not just in relationships, in everything. And I discovered something simple that took me a long time to understand. I deserve someone who is certain about me, not someone who needs years to decide if I am worth it, not someone who only says yes when she is about to lose me, not a safe bet, not a harbor while life changes. A person who truly chooses me, with desire, without doubting. Was I the idiot for having broken up after 2 rejected proposals? You decide. I just know I was not willing to spend the rest of my life waiting for someone to truly choose me. Things are still not perfect. They never are. But I am learning to welcome what comes without clinging too much to what passed, nor getting ahead of what has not arrived yet. The diner is doing better than ever. The smoked brisket tacos already have a waiting list on Sundays. Mrs. Helen taught me how to make a special stuffing that would have brought a tear of pride to my grandmother's eye. Last week, a group of out-of-town visitors came to eat, and the man asked me for the Texas-style scrambled eggs recipe. I told him the recipe was my grandmother's, and it was not for sale, but to come back tomorrow and I would teach him how to make them. He came back. I taught him. He left happy. That is more satisfying than any yes out of obligation. I am fine here in my apartment, on my roof, with my beer, with the noise of Austin sleeping below and the smell of crepe myrtles coming in everywhere. The other night I was up here and I saw a young couple walking down the street, holding hands, laughing at something I could not catch. And I did not feel envy. I felt hope. Not for me specifically. I am not looking for anyone yet, but a general hope that exists, that there are people who choose each other without doubting, who say yes to each other, without needing the other to threaten to leave first. Someday someone will arrive or not, and it is fine either way, because I learned that being alone is not the punishment they sell us. The punishment is being with someone who is not sure about you and dedicating years of your life to convince her of something that should be obvious. And for the first time in a long time, that is enough. My grandmother used to say that a man who knows how to cook will never need anyone to love him out of obligation. She was right. Only that first I had to learn that love is not a dish that is cooked over low heat, waiting for it to turn out well someday. Sometimes it simply does not have the right ingredients, and there is no seasoning that fixes that. But you know what? If it has the right ingredients, my breakfast tacos, those do come out perfect every time. And tomorrow at 7 in the morning, when I open the diner and the first customers sit at the plastic tables to have breakfast with their glass Coca-Cola, I will be there. With my apron stained with seasoning and my hands smelling of cilantro, doing what I know how to do best, feeding the people who do want to be there. The lesson here is clear. If you propose marriage to someone and the answer is not an immediate and genuine yes, that person is giving you all the information you need. A not yet. After years together, it is not prudence. It is uncertainty disguised as patience. Do not stay waiting for someone to choose you while life passes by. You deserve someone who does not need to think twice about it. And if the yes only appears when you are walking out the door, that is not love, it is fear. And on fear, nothing is built that holds up. Comment. Hey everyone, thank you for watching this story with an open heart. For me, the most important part is remembering how much self-respect truly matters. Setting clear boundaries can feel hard at first, but it's an act of kindness toward yourself. You deserve someone who chooses you without any hesitation or doubt. Walking away from uncertainty is painful, yet it often leads to deeper peace. Be patient and gentle with yourself as you heal, since it doesn't happen overnight. Taking responsibility for your own happiness is one of the bravest things we can do. Never settle for a love that keeps you waiting in doubt for years. Choosing your peace creates space for better things to come into your life. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.